Hi, everybody. I'm Robin, and these are my reflections. And today we're here to do the books I read in April. So, this is the video where I wrap up all of the books that I read, reviews I did, or books that I'm just using and want to talk about that are metaphysical or tarot related. I put them here in this video. So, if you're interested in books, this is the video for you. I am going to just run through them all in no particular order. I'm just going to start at the top of my stack here. I actually read 5 books this month that I wanted to share with you guys, which I was kind of shocked about. Once I started pulling everything together, I was like, oh, this is more books than I thought it was going to be. All right, let's start with 365 Happy Bedtime Mantras. Improve your sleep, release stress, and enjoy your dreams by Shannon Kaiser. Now, I was sent this book for review from Beyond Words Publishing. They sent me the book and the deck. I will be doing a full review video for this book and the deck separately, but the book is what I'm going to talk about today. Read it, but it's basically Shannon Kaiser's response to people's sleep problems these days. A lot of studies are saying that a lot of people are having trouble sleeping. There's an epidemic of poor sleep. And so she's giving you sort of some mantras, some meditation, some bedtime rituals that you can incorporate into your nightly routine in order to get better sleep, in order to enrich your sleep. It's basically a self-care practice that is tailored around bringing you into a space where you feel emotionally ready to rest. When I first got this book, I put it by my bedside and I was trying to read one of these every night. But to be honest, I don't think there's different ways that you can do this and you can do it however you want. But for me, it didn't work that way. It's not really a bed table book. This is something that I think is good to like. It's going to help you develop a bedtime ritual. I would say like start about an hour before bed, like maybe after you brush your teeth, you sit down with this book, maybe a journal. There are other things that you might need for some of these rituals in here. It's not something that you're just going to want to lay in bed and do. You could do that if you just read this part, but if you're going to do all of this, it's going to take a little bit more time because what you have is um, you have, this sort of affirmation or mantra, and then there's something to consider, and then more affirmation or mantra, and then there's a ritual, and each ritual is something to do. Some of them are something you can do right in your bed or, but some of them require you to get up and do things like make tea. So it's separated into 3 sections. And at the beginning of the book, you have a very extensive table of contents, which is great. So if you just wanted to like pick a mantra and go for it, you could also just pick a night and read. You don't have to go night by night by night. Cause at first I was doing that. I was just doing night 1, night 2, night 3. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just read whatever I land on. And so that's what I did it that way too. Either way works. You can also scroll through the table of contents here and pick one that way by something that jumps out at you. So you have your bedtime mantras for relaxation, and then bedtime mantras for releasing stress, and the final one is bedtime mantras for enjoying dreams. And there are 365, so you could go day by day. So in the beginning of the book, you have an introduction to sleep, how to listen to your body, how to use the book, um, a, understanding the toolkit. And here in this toolkit section is where she gives a list of all of the things that you can get together that you might need for these rituals in this book. So there's a complete list here. So then you get into the mantras. And so what I would do is read this. And at one point I was putting them on post-it notes and sticking them on my mirror, but it was taking up a lot of post-it notes. So I stopped doing that. But so that I could read them the next day, when I woke up. But I just would keep this out and then just read it in the morning with my coffee, just to remind myself as this is what I looked at that night before if I couldn't remember. And so you start with the mantra, it's not mine to worry about. And then you read, it's time to free yourself from the situation that has been causing you the most pain. There's no need for you to think about it anymore. The universe is asking you to free your mind, especially from the worries of the past. And when you stay stuck there, even in your mind, you prevent new opportunities from coming to you. Give yourself permission to enter a new phase of your life. Future opportunities are waiting for you with open arms. The more you worry about the past, the less freedom you have to move forward in a more joyful, happy state. A new life and peaceful space awaits. So then there's an affirmation here. I free myself from all worry, guilt, and heaviness from the past. Everything that happened has helped me become who I am meant to be, and I am grateful. So the relaxation ritual for here was something I could do. It's just journaling. So it said bring out your journal before bed and reflect on what the new phase of your life will look like, the next new phase. What are you looking forward to, and how does this make you feel? It's a short journal entry, maybe just a couple of sentences to kind of ground yourself in these thoughts of letting go and moving on, right? Not just letting go, but moving on and starting to look forward. Falling asleep on that is a nice way to lead yourself into nice dreams. You know what I mean? And then the next morning, I'm waking up saying it's not mine to worry about. So that's kind of how this works. And you can just, I'll open it up and you can just take a look at a few more if you're interested. It did help me relax. It helped me find a place in my nighttime routine that was quiet and serene and relaxing. So it led me to a place where I could fall asleep faster. I wasn't staying up as late as I used to. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten a message response from me when you're commenting. I might comment back to you at like 2, 3 in the morning, like I'm up, right? So I definitely have trouble sleeping. And I think that this helped with that. It kind of helped me wind down, I think is what it was. The whole practice, all the rituals, the visualizations, and the journaling. I didn't do all the rituals, but the ones that I did, because I had to sit with this book and the deck, it came with the deck as well. So because I had to sit with the book and the deck, at the table, shuffle cards, journal, things like that. I did it every night and it just kind of quieted me down. And when I was done with that, I was relaxed and ready to just lay down and do some reading, and just go to bed. So yeah, no more 3 a.m.s. So I guess it did help me sleep in the end. So there's that. So I did get the Shadows of the Soul Biblical Tarot Shadow Work Edition. So this is a guidebook that is a separate purchase that goes along with that deck. And I just wanted to mention it here. I did talk about it in the review, which I will put here if you're interested in seeing that. I went side by side with this book, the other deck, and its book, and I, covered everything. But I just wanted to talk about this book as a separate entity because it is a separate entity. The back of the book, it contains the guidebook, and the guidebook part of this starts on page 201. So there are 200 solid pages of shadow work textbook basically in here. And I'll just give you a look at what's in it. You can see here part 1 and part 2. So chapter 25 is where the guidebook for the biblical tarot starts. So from here up, and all of this is what you would get separate from that deck. So even if you didn't want to get the deck, I think that if you are interested in doing shadow work and uncovering some things in that nature, and also blending that with your spirituality, having the support of the Bible behind you and biblical verses, scripture, and things like that, I think that this book is a good tool to have in your toolkit. So I would suggest picking it. I highly recommend this. I'm not doing shadow work at the moment, but when I do, I'm definitely going to be using this book to support me in that practice. So it says this book is about shadow work, the deeply personal and spiritual journey of acknowledging, embracing, and transforming these hidden aspects of ourselves. Yet it is more than just a psychological exercise, it's a sacred process rooted in ancient wisdom. Through the lens of biblical narratives, we'll explore how these time honored stories mirror our inner struggles and can serve as a guiding light in the process of self discovery. The Bible offers more than a moral compass, it offers the blueprint for transformation. Figures like David, Moses, and Jacob wrestled with their flaws, their doubts, and their shadows. Through their stories, we find not only moral lessons, but also a roadmap for confronting our own inner conflicts. This book will break down the process of shadow work into easy to follow steps, drawing on biblical wisdom to show how the moral values and teachings of Scripture can aid us in this journey. So then you go through what it means to do shadow work, right? What's the purpose of shadow work and using this book in that way? This section here is about how the biblical tarot, Shadows of the Soul, can help you connect with your subconscious through its symbolism, through the words in the book, the scriptures that they've chosen, and how they've chosen to describe those scriptures and connect them to shadows in this book. I think that you can use this book with any deck, though, to be honest. There's a certain part of the guidebook in the back that does speak about the scripture, but the rest of this is not about the scripture. This is just about the high priestess. So aside from just this part, you're getting plenty of other information that you could use to help you in any tarot reading. So I use the Biblical Tarot Guidebook, the original one, anytime I'm doing any kind of soul link reading or trying to dig into like my higher self kind of reading that feels that I want to add that spiritual layer to with any deck. I don't have to be using the Biblical Tarot to actually do it. So, and I feel this book is the same. This is just talking about how to use tarot to do shadow work. This one is talking about Jung's theory, information on how to do shadow work, why we're doing shadow work, um, the whole purpose of it and what to do with it once you've discovered what the shadow is, that kind of stuff. The whole section is about having grace for yourself when you're doing shadow work. It says through grace, we learn to accept ourselves with all of our flaws and imperfections. Through redemption, we allow God to use those imperfections for good. The shadows we once feared become sources of light, wisdom, and healing. Grace and redemption remind us that we are never defined by our shadows. Instead, we are constantly being transformed by the love of God, moving towards wholeness and purpose. Embrace this journey with an open heart, trusting every shadow holds the potential for growth and every flaw can be redeemed in the hands of the divine. There's a section about rituals for grounding, deep breathing, and there's a whole lot in here about prayer and shadow, praying as you're doing your shadow work, and what you can ask for, guidance, grace, calm, all kinds of things, light, revelation, all kinds of things. This is an extensive resource with a whole lot of information and a whole lot of really good advice inside, in my opinion. I think that anyone who is looking to blend a shadow work practice with their spiritual practice, and if they're Christian, this could be a wonderful resource to add to your library. And that's Eliminating the Path Within Shadow Work with the Biblical Tarot. I read this book, Venus. This is by Lisa Lister. This is A Sacred Path, A Feminine Frequency, A Sensual Love Affair with Life. This is like, I don't even know. This is like a mix between feminine vibe and path and mythology and astrology and the archetype of Venus. Like there's history on the archetype, history on the astrology, history on the mythology. And then there's like also sections on just the astrology. So if you're thinking about like Venus as she moves through her transits, Venus as she meets different like here we have Venus in air, Venus in a water sign, Venus in Aries, Venus in Taurus, Venus in Cancer, like whatever your Venus is in, there's different things in there for you. Venus, what happens when she's in retrograde? There's this thing about morning star and evening star Venus, so she gives you how to calculate that for yourself. There's a lot in here about the different things, like Venus as a planet, Venus in astrology, Venus as a archetype, Venus as a goddess, Venus as just like a vibe. Like it's just there's a lot how she's connected to other goddesses, the Anana Venus myth. If you're interested in Venus, yeah, this is going to be great for you to read, learn a little bit about her, or if you just want to maybe see what she has to say and her thoughts. There's also some rituals and visualizations and activities and things that you can do in here to kind of draw in that Venusian energy and into your life. So I don't know. I mean, there's journal prompts. There's all kinds of stuff in this book. It's a lot. It's a lot packed into 200 pages or something. 222 pages. And she put a lot of information. Oh, well, wait, hang on. 219 pages. And she put a lot of information. A quick read. It didn't take me a long time. It's a little sassy and interesting. So there's Venus. Astrology Made Easy. So one thing that I've learned about these Made Easy books from Hay House is that none of them are like easy. There's always quite a bit of information in all of them. Like I had Enneagrams Made Easy, and it was so complicated that I was just like, what is going on? And this one it's not, I wouldn't say it's like astrology for dummies or anything like that. This is like everything that you need to know to be able to understand your birth chart and all of its facets is in this book. It's I think the reason they're saying it makes it easy is because they give you these exercises to kind of work through it piece by piece by piece, layer by layer by layer until you can understand it, right? So that you start at the very beginning and work through piece by piece. So let me just show you. So it starts out with the basics and what astrology is, and then it talks about your birth chart and understanding your birth chart and the planets, the houses, the signs, the rising signs, and understanding all of that. So then there in chapter 3 is like an overall on zodiac signs, like all the different things that you can look into, their elements, their qualities, their polarities, and things like that. Then you go through the planets, then you go through the actual zodiac signs, and you go through all of the angles, ascendant, descendant, so forth. And then you go through the houses, and all of this you're doing with your chart. So she gives you a place where you can download your chart, get all of that information, where all of your planets lie and all that kind of stuff. And then she actually gives you, I'll show you. Let me just show you. In every section, there's this take it back to your birth chart kind of worksheet where you're going to go in and you're going to analyze your chart, because she tells you where you can go and download your chart. And you're going to analyze your chart up against this worksheet to figure out where you fall. So and get a little deeper into your chart. And you can do this with anybody's chart. It doesn't have to be just your chart. Whatever chart you have that you're using, you can go through this and all of these and do this. So you have, for instance, here we're talking about the qualities. So are you mostly fixed? Are you mostly immutable? Are you mostly cardinal? You can go through and analyze your chart and label it all, and then it's got a point system so that you can see that, like, I have 3 planets in cardinal signs, I have 5 planets in fixed signs, I have 2 planets plus an ascendant and mutable sign. So you can get a feel for the overall feel of your chart, like I'm heavy fixed, right? Or I'm heavy cardinal or whatever. So it gives you that to do for every section so that you can go through and analyze your chart to really see kind of what the workings are of it. And in that way, it makes it a little bit easier because it's not just throwing the information at you, it's taking you through step by step with your own chart. Every section has a take it back to your chart. So for instance, here it's talking about identifying the degrees in your chart. So it talks about there are 365 degrees in a circle. The chart is divided into 12 sections. And those sections therefore contain 30 degrees. Each degree is also a 0 to 59 minutes in seconds. Remember that we always go anti-clockwise when looking at a chart, including when counting degrees. So here's an example that resembles those you'll see on the table in your chart. Okay, so you've got the sun is at 14 degrees, 23 minutes, 33 seconds in Aries. So then it says, take it back to your chart. Make a note of which planet sits at which degree in your chart and use this table to complete the following. Here we won't include the seconds. So my sun is at blank degrees and blank minutes of this sign. My moon is at blank degrees. And so you fill all that in, and you can, fill this in separately in another book if you didn't want to write in this book. If you're just doing this for yourself and you never plan to do this for anybody else, you could write right in the book. I don't know what I would do. I probably would write right in this book, but then I would want to, if I wanted to do it with someone else, I would have to write it in something else, right? Later on. So I really love these why sections because it's like, well, why do we care what these degrees are? One of the major reasons for this would be you want to measure the angles that the transiting planets in the sky right now are making against your chart, right? So that's why we need the degrees of where things were when you were born so we can measure it against what's happening in the sky right now. So then it says, well, what are the angles and aspects? And it goes on and it keeps, and this is a good book. It's a good book. It has a lot of things, but if you're not interested in learning all of that, I don't know if you need this. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there are other books that if you're just like trying to see if there's compatibility, there are books out there about that. There are so many astrology books. There's a million of them. But if you are interested in really diving into your chart specifically, and doing that in sort of like a workbook situation where you're working on each piece, writing everything out and really kind of digging in, and you like to do things by writing, I think that this is a really great book to pick up. I'm definitely going to work through my chart using this book. So this is Astrology Made Easy, a guide to understanding your birth chart. And the last book that I have to talk about today is Talking with Tarot. This is by Samantha Rose Hicks, Conversations with Your 78 New Best Friends. I got a galley copy, an uncorrected proof. So if you see any mistakes in this edition, it's because this is an uncorrected proof. So your copy won't have those errors, and your copy will also look a little bit different. It'll probably have like a glossier cover and things like that. So just be aware of that. So this book is about taking the card. It's almost like I think people have called it in the past journeying with the tarot. I have another book called Tarot Interactions, which I feel like is very similar to this one, but for more advanced readers. Let me get it. Hang on. Okay, so that's this one. So I feel like if you are, they're both from Llewellyn, and I feel like if you are interested in something like this, but you're a more advanced reader, you might be more interested in this one. This is more for people who are starting this process or just learning how to read in this way. This one is, I think, a little bit more advanced in that. It's all about intuitive reading and subconscious reading and thinking about journeying into the tarot so that it connects to life um rather than just being, like a system of cards that we interpret on the table. It's more like a conversation with your higher self, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, what is the conversation method? It says the conversation method is a 3-step approach to reading the tarot. First step is introducing you to all 78 cards. Second step is providing you with the space to form connections with those personas by relating their experiences to your own. Yes, imagining yourself in their shoes, sitting where they're sitting, seeing what they see, and then connecting those sensations with moments you've experienced in your life. The third and the last step is performing a reading where you are speaking with the cards instead of at them. You're speaking with them. The reading should feel like you're having a conversation with friends instead of distant figures on a paper. Says, why are we doing this? She says, I had always treated the cards as if they were my friends. I learned all about their backstories, their experiences, and how no matter the question, those experiences would show up time and time again. Every time the Fool came into a reading, their childlike energy would be the same. The Fool would ask me to release, be brave, and take a leap of faith. It didn't matter if I was asking them about a job or a way to better work with my shadow self. The core, who the Fool is always the same, as was their story. So it says it's their story that would keep coming back to me, not their 10 different meanings in the context of the pull. The Fool became real to me, a real person I was going to repeatedly ask for advice, and they had become my friend. I had learned the roots from which their advice would grow and then connected my own experiences to them. So it's kind of that thought process. It's a great way to read tarot. It's definitely a way that I read often. I read all different kinds of ways, but this is definitely one of them. I had the other book and I learned a lot from that one, but this one is like, if you're really starting from the beginning of that, this is a good one for that. So let's go through one of the cards just so you can get a feel. Right. Core cards are difficult, so let's look at the Knight of Pentacles. It says a reliable and persistent persona. The Knight of Pentacles rides forward with diligent care. One of the most honest and trustworthy personas of the Minor Arcana, the Knight of Pentacles looks like your classic knight in shining armor. However, they are not in action at the time of your meeting. They are in a moment of pause, weighing their options before crossing the river. Their black stallion with greenery spouting from its head represents the knight's slow growth and future potential. They hold their coin responsibly, looking at it with committed eyes. They know what they want to achieve will take time and feel there is no need to rush the journey. Talking to the Knight of Pentacles in conversation. When the Knight of Pentacles slowly rolls into the conversation, then you know whatever you are working on is going to take time. The Knight of Pentacles is patient. So remember that when they give you advice such as, what are some steps you can take right now to slowly grow your finances? Or how much of your time are you willing to commit to making this successful? And even, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you stay dedicated and keep moving forward. Then there's this section on creating a personal connection where she gives some examples of different ways you might find this in your real life. So this is saying we know people who take it one step at a time and don't rush. The Knight of Pentacles could reflect as someone in your life that's trustworthy, calm, and maybe even a little cautious. about what they have. They aren't in a hurry, which can sometimes be frustrating when you're ready to take the next step. If it sounds like someone you know, then yay, or you, then yay. You already have a personal connection. But if you're still struggling, think about a time in your life when you just had to take it slow. It may have been annoying to do so, but you knew that to succeed, you couldn't rush things. When I think about the Knight of Pentacles, I think about the steps it took to write this book for you. It was a slow and steady process that I knew would yield rewards. What is a project you have undertaken that you knew would take a while before it would be completed? Maybe studying to be a doctor or a nurse, maybe becoming a painter and having to learn about color theory and art history. There are so many moments in our lives that require slow, dedicated effort. What is yours? There's some reversal prompt questions here. Why do you feel resistant to patience when it comes to building your future? What is blocking you from continuing to commit to your goals, and how can you release expectations when it comes to what you're trying to manifest? So, yeah, that's how it reads. And you have that for every card. And then when you get past the cards in the back, there's just some information on how to read tarot in general. I feel like this book is good for beginners because it does contain all of this stuff in the back. So there's this cementing personal connection section. And then you've got setting up for success, where it tells you all about how to set up your space, all these ideas of things that you can do, rituals you can do. There's some spread questions and all kinds of spreads in the back that you can use to read your cards. I do like the way she did the spreads, because let's look at this limitless abundance spread. Most spreads would just say, what is my current relationship with money? And then what are some of my limiting beliefs that I have around money? But this one, it tells you why she's asking that question. So, what is my current relationship with money? And then she explains, this is a foundation from which you are going to build the conversation around. You must first be honest with your cards about how you currently feel about money and what the status of your relationship with this energy is. This prompt allows you to see your feelings with your own eyes and have a one on one conversation with them. Speak with the card that is placed here and tap into how it makes you feel. So you pull that card and then maybe look in this book and think about, like, say you pull the 10 of swords. So then you're going to read this section on the 10 of swords and ask the questions it asked you to ask and think about that. I really enjoy the way these spreads are written up with all of the explanations as to why we're asking the questions. It's a really good way to think about using spreads. I think that this is a fantastic book for a beginner who hasn't developed any kind of reading style yet. And I think this is also a really good book for someone who might be looking to take on this reading style, and change, and have that in their bag of tricks. Also, if you enjoyed this, if you pick this up and you enjoy it, I would say maybe also look into this one. This is Tarot Interactions. So that's it. So that's the last one that I wanted to review today. I hope that was helpful for anybody who was thinking about picking up any of these. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these books. Have you read them? What did you get out of them? If you're thinking about picking them up, how you plan to use them, let me know all the things in the comments below. Now, I'm going to put links in the description box below where you can pick up these. I always use Amazon affiliate links. So I'm going to put Amazon affiliate links, but you can also purchase these directly from the publishers. This one is Beyond Words. This is an independently published deck. They sell on Amazon. So I'll put that link below. Hay House, Llewellyn. So there you go. And until I see you guys next time, stay safe and be blessed. Bye-bye.